Bang, CEO down. I'm just kidding. You're not a CEO, but you are probably here to get some information on UFC Tampa, which goes down this Saturday. It's the last UFC event in, I think, a month. So it's going to be a pretty dry month. Make sure to get in your bets, your investments here. Yeah, let's have a good card. Let's jump into these picks.
Wild intro. Covington versus Buckley. Definitely. If I had to take a bet, I was right about the Lord being mentioned with Bryce Mitchell. My take here is supposedly Colby has a surprise person walking out with him. How much you want to bet that's the Don? Like, I feel like they set that up for him.
Who?
Donald Trump. That would be my guess here.
Dude, no way. That
Luigi.
That would be crazier.
That would be insane.
But yeah,
I don't think Trump is walking out with this dude.
I don't know. You never know. This man has one of the biggest loves for Trump I've ever seen. So
they might give JD Vance to him.
Yeah.
Wait, what is this background?
Is
this a hidden picture of Dana in the background?
Oh
here?
yeah, that's it. I do that in every one, but it just came out a bit clearer in this one.
Dude, how have I never noticed that before? The Easter egg is coming out in this
That's
one.
Hilarious.
Yeah, bro.
All right, Josephine Knutson, that's a name. Walk us through it. What should we like about her?
Yeah, so I believe she's a pretty decent favorite. Grant, could you confirm? But on PredictionStrike, she's 5 cents cheaper at the time of making these slides than her opponent, Pierre Rodriguez.
2.5-ish.
Cool, yeah. So big favorite. We're getting this at pretty much exactly pick-em odds. And I do like Josephine Knutson from what I've seen from her so far. I do think she has the skills to be good in this division. Generally very talented. She is a champion kickboxer. And you can see that when she fights, very talented on the feet. She's usually a level above her opponents. The only thing that kind of impedes her fighting is what I would say low IQ decision making at times. She was smoking Marnik Man on the feet, for instance, then just decided to clinch her out of nowhere, kind of just horrible decision making. And I do think she has the power to finish people as well in the UFC. I just think that decision making is what stopped her from doing that and what has led to fights ultimately going to decisions. And Pierre Rodriguez was a pretty hyped up prospect in the past. She lost 2 in a row. One of them, though, was to Jillian Robertson. We know how good she's looked recently in that division, so not a bad loss in hindsight. She also lost to Carnelosi in a DQ. But yeah, Pierre was a DWCS fighter, good boxer, decent wrestler, decent amount of takedowns. Ultimately, though, I think Knutson's striking is just going to be too good for Pierre as it's been for her opponents so far in the UFC. Her takedown defense will definitely be tested here. I think she's going to win a decision, though. She's the better fighter overall.
I like it. All right. On to the next one, Joel Alvarez. What should we be expecting here?
Yeah, this is another one I really like here. We're getting favorable prices relative to odds again. I think Joel's hovering at around a 2-1 favorite. Grant, what does it say there?
I don't think there's odds posted for this one yet.
Oh man. Okay, well, I would assume Joel Alvarez is a pretty decent favorite.
Let me look elsewhere.
Cool. But Drakkar Close, $5.73 on the app. Alvarez, $5.27. And Drakkar, pretty good fighter, was kind of a hot prospect at one point.
4-1.
4-1, wow, okay. Got knocked out by Beneil Dariush, then took some time away from fighting. He had the issue with Jeremy Stevens at the weigh-ins where Jeremy shoved him and then had some problems with his neck and back that I think were a bit more serious than people presumed. Took some time away. Came back, has been on a winning streak since then. Knocked out some people, beat some decent opponents. And I'd say he's basically a boxer, wrestler. He was a lot more of a straightforward wrestler, I'd say, when he came into the UFC, has loosened up on the feet a bit, is noticeably more well-rounded now, or at least mixes in the striking more. And Alvarez is really tall, 6'3", one of the biggest dudes in this class, might be the biggest. basically just a grappler. He wants the fight to be on the ground, is such a constant threat to submit people that he's perfectly fine with fighting off of his back. He subbed Diakaze in the second against Elvis Brenner. He looked good for a while, but Brenner ended up knocking him out. Elvis Brenner's a really good fighter, though. That's a quality loss. His takedown D, I think it might be improving. He showed pretty good takedown defense in the Elvis Brenner fight. But like he's never really had to display it too much because he's always getting subs off his back. He doesn't need to be the one getting the takedowns. You don't want to be doing that too much against Drakkar Klose, though, who's really good with the ground and pound. I do think Alvarez wins this fight, though. Striking looked good against Brenner, was able to maintain range well. I think he wins this one by sub against Klose, honestly. I don't think he's going to be able to match his grappling on the ground.
I like it. All right. On to the next. We have an actual bout. Navajo Sterling versus Tuco Tacos. Sounds like a stand. So walk me through how this fight's supposed to go.
Tuco Tacos.
Yeah, we covered Navajo during the Dana White Contender Series variety of this podcast a few months ago. He knocked out his opponent, I believe, in the second round and then was given a contract. This will be his first fight in the UFC. Very talented striker. I mean, obviously that takedown defense number is juiced up because it was probably just from the Contender Series fight, I would guess. But yeah, high volume striker, super talented. It feels like they kind of gave him a layup to start off his career, and this feels like a situation where he should cruise. He's a heavy favorite. Probably still even a good investment play on PredictionStrike because the disparity between them is not that crazy. And this feels like a fight that he should pass with flying colors.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you all around there. He looked good on Contender Series. Probably let Latu, who showed up like less impressive than we thought he was going to be in the first place, probably let a few too many strikes go through there. So we probably need to watch out for his striking defense. But overall, he looked really clean. Champion kickboxer, just very good kickboxing overall. Has won the King of the Ring tournament. Carlos Ulberg won that, so good case study for who could potentially be here. And Tuco Tacos is a wrestler, so we're not really going to have to worry about the striking defense too much here. This dude got knocked out by Zhang Mingyang as a minus 800 favorite. And I mean, in hindsight, Mingyang is honestly like really good. That might be a better fight, like Navajo versus Mingyang, but I don't think he's going to have too much trouble here with Tuco Tacos. City Kickboxing does defensive grappling training really well. Kai Kara France is probably one of the best defensive grapplers in the division. Izzy, Dan Hooker are good takedown defense all around there. So I like Navajo here. I think the odds make sense. We're getting a good price for him, honestly, on PS.
I like it. Seems like the start of his journey against Tuco Tacos. All right. Daniel Marcos versus Adrian Yanez. If I remember correctly, Adrian Yanez can stand and bang with some of the best of them, but has also been knocked out a few times or something like that, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Davey Grant and Marcos fought most recently, I think, and that was a really close one, kind of controversial decision, but Daniel Marcos does look to be making improvements in his fighting. He looked good against he fought John Castaneda between his fight with Davey Grant and looked really good in that one. It was almost like night and day between the Grant fight. He won the Grant fight, but like I said, I honestly think Grant might have won. He was looking a lot faster in his striking, making the right reads, moving in and out well. Yanez, like Wells said, got some big KOs, generated some hype, knocked out Randy Costa, knocked out Tony Kelly. I'd say outside of his win over Davey Grant, competition wasn't very high level. Gustavo Lopez isn't really around anymore. Randy Costa has gone regional. Same with Tony Kelly. But he has really good boxing, I would say. Rob Font knocked him out. Yanez struggled with his pressure early. And then Martinez was just decimating him with his leg kicks in that loss. And Yanez, I think the type of fighter that he tends to struggle against is forward pressure fighters. Daniel Marcos, like I faded him in the past. Like I do think I've been seeing improvements, and those improvements I think that he's been making are going to specifically help him out against a guy like Adrian Yanez. So I think Yanez is probably going to be a popular pick as like a dog here. I do think I like Daniel Marcos though. I think he has the skill set to win on top of that forward pressure.
Yeah, like Marcos by decision here. I think he can land enough volume to kind of just outpoint Yanez. Mm-hmm. And it's a situation where he doesn't have to worry about anything on the ground, because that could be a way that he gets outpointed is just a lot of control, top control. But this feels like a situation where this fight will probably be taking place all on the feet unless Marcos wants to take it to the ground, in which case it would help his case of kind of outpointing this one. But I think if it ends within the distance, you're looking at a Yanez victory probably. But I would say the most popular outcome and the one I would go with is Marcos by decision here.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
All right. On to the next one here. We have Dustin Jacoby versus Vitor Petrino. I feel like I've seen this Vitor Petrino guy a lot, to be honest with you. And if I remember correctly, he just looks a lot physically better than he actually fights. I could be very wrong.
No, I think that's pretty apt. Like he's definitely like one of those guys that's just super explosive. Jacoby, $2 cheaper here than Petrino. I am not sure what the odds are on this one, honestly. I feel like Petrino is probably the favorite.
Let's see.
Yeah, Petrino's like a heavy favorite.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so some interesting matchmaking going on here. Dustin Jacoby lost to Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes just beat Anthony Smith, who beat Petrino. And Petrino was a pretty good prospect before he lost to Smith. Kind of came in just a pure boxer, getting a bunch of first-round knockouts. Knocked out Rodolfo Bellato in the first round. Knocked out the pleasure man, Anton Turkalj, who's an absolute trash can. I mean, maybe not, but he's like hasn't won a fight. Yeah. But he's wrestled more. Out of I don't really know why or how he's with the same team and everything. Maybe just is looking for more ways to win. Looks pretty good until he ran into Smith, who has decent defensive grappling. Caught him with the guillotine. And Smith isn't really that hard to beat. You basically just have to knock him out, or you have to screw up really bad. Sorry. And Jacoby is 100%, kind of like to Wells's point, going to be the more technical striker here. Petrino is going to be the more dangerous guy, ton of power in his hands, just closes the distance on you, throws big hooks. And I think it comes down to the fact that Petrino is going to be a threat on the feet, is going to want to wrestle more than Dustin Jacoby, kind of what Grant was pointing towards with Daniel Marcos. Just another path to victory for him. And I think, honestly, Dustin Jacoby is probably going to be less of a defensive factor on the ground than was Anthony Smith. So I like Petrino here. I think it could either be a decision or a knockout. What do you think, Grant?
Yeah, tend to agree. I'm not super familiar with Vitor, but I like the logic you laid out there. I think that's a good way to play this fight.
Sweet.
All right, I like it. On to the next one here. We have Bruno Silva versus Manel Kape. Is Manel Kape underrated? That is the real question that I want to know.
Probably a little bit. It feels like the hype train was building a lot kind of when he was going back and forth with Kai Kara-France there for a while. I think they had a few fights get canceled, right? I don't think they ever actually got in the ring. There was kind of a lot of words exchanged. His last loss, or in his last fight, he did lose to Muhammad Mokaev, which was kind of that fight that Mokaev got kind of banished from the UFC after, even though he has an undefeated record. But it's just not a great matchup for Kopp there. I mean, Mokaev is a very skilled wrestler, and that's kind of the reason he got eliminated from the UFC was a lot of boring fights, and that's not the kind of situation that Manel Kape wanted to find himself in often. This feels like a spot where you can get back into the win column. High volume striker, can also defend takedowns, and this feels like a pretty layup, especially investment wise. I mean, he's only $1 more expensive, so you're getting pretty good value there compared to consensus elsewhere. So I like the Kape side.
Dude, is Kape gonna get Pantoja if he wins this fight?
He actually, I mean, the division is so random, and like they're just constantly looking for new blood to kind of challenge for a
See
belt.
if anybody
It's
can
so
beat
I
funny.
could
him.
also see, because they only fought a week apart, he could fight Kai
Yeah,
for
dude,
the
I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a fun fight too.
That would be sick. Dude, it's so funny Makayev got dropped, and it's like he's probably the person that like should fight Pantoja.
The one that
And he'd
has
probably
the
win.
best chance.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he'd probably win.
But yeah, Bruno, he's definitely not a bad fighter. Knocked out JP Buys, then Victor Rodriguez, and then was like the second dude to ever submit Tyson Nam. Knocks out Cody Durden. I do also think Kape is going to win here. He's the better striker. I think he defends the takedowns from Bruno Silva. Bruno's not as aggressive or good by any means in the wrestling department as Makayev was, and Kape's definitely the better striker. Kape, we know, is a longtime training partner of Henry Cejudo. I would say kind of fights similarly to Bruno Silva, which I'd say is another edge on his side of things. Bruno is kind of small for the weight class. He does have a pretty big frame, but short. Yeah, I just think Kape has the opportunity here to sort of dance around Bruno, so to speak, and just dominate the striking.
Do a little dance.
Yes. Sir.
All right. On to the next one, Billy Quarantillo versus Cub Swanson. Last time I remember Cub Swanson, he won a fight by split decision or something that he had no business winning whatsoever. Billy Q, I know, fan favorite. That's about it. So walk me through what else I need to know about this fight, or educate me on what I don't know.
So we've got Billy Q, a little bit more expensive than Cub. I think that reflects popular consensus relatively well. Cub, he's a little bit on the older side of things. He can still make fights close at this age, though. He got taken down a ton of times and has lost to Andre Fili. Was lower volume than Hakeem Dawodu in the fight before that. Overall, mostly a striker, can be low volume, like I said, but he is well-rounded, old. Billy Quarantillo, he is a really exciting fighter, was pretty hyped up at one point, I'd say. He had a big win over Alexander Hernandez. They gave him a step up in competition against Edson Barboza, where he got knocked out quickly, which kind of hurt. Just that progression of Billy Q. Before that, he had a pretty good fight versus Shane Burgos. Overall, Billy, very fun fighter. I'd say a bit more of a grappler than Cub. Will be throwing more volume here than Cub Swanson. He's very aggressive. I also honestly think Billy will look for takedowns more. Cub has pretty decent takedown defense, it's worth noting. Pretty sure the winner of this is going to get matched up against Duho Choi. Cub's already fought him, so that would be a rematch. I think Billy wins this fight. He's the far more exciting guy. They put him in the co-main for a reason. Cub has been around for a while, but Billy's just always, you can count on him to bring it. He's definitely going to land more significant strikes, so I like him.
I like it.
Yeah, I think I agree. The only weird thing that I found while looking at this fight was in 2012, Cub Swanson beat Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier back-to-back in the UFC. And then after that, he's been on 4-fight losing streaks, 3 out of 5, just a crazy spiral down. But you've seen how those guys' careers have progressed. I guess he was probably more in his athletic prime, and those guys were pretty young back then, but that's still a crazy 2-fight win streak to go on in this division.
That is crazy.
Jeez.
Damn, that was back when Clay Guida was fighting main events.
He was a thing. All right, on to the next one here. Colby Covington versus Joaquin Buckley. Main event, walk us through it. What should we be expecting?
Yeah, I mean, PS wise, this is pretty mandatory value on Joaquin Buckley here. Elsewhere, you're seeing him as a close to 300 favorite, and you're getting him here at $4 cheaper. So that feels like pretty much a no-brainer. I do think Colby is more live in this fight than the odds elsewhere would show. So I think how you're probably taking this fight is going to depend on the platform. Here is going to be the most undeniable value you're going to find compared to any other site. But I do feel like Colby has a chance in this one just to kind of make it ugly and outpoint Joaquin Buckley, even though I do like the prospect. And this feels like a kind of coming of age moment kind of thing where he gets that big break. I mean, this is the first fighter of Colby's ilk that Joaquin Buckley will have beaten, and it feels like an opportunity to kind of fly up those rankings and get your name out there more. So
yeah, for sure. And Colby stepped up on short notice here to fight Buckley, which is like kind of surprising considering like who Colby is. He doesn't do that often. He kind of picks and chooses his opportunities. So good on him. Kind of like Ian Gary stepping up against Shavkat.
Do you think that means that Colby sees something that he feels like he can beat?
I think it could. Buckley? I think it could. He could also just be doing the UFC some favors, but I mean, I feel like he wouldn't take it unless he thought he could win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Grant. Colby, like I said, stepping up on short notice. He's a small guy at 170. Buckley's a former middleweight. He's bringing that power down with him to this division. Overall, I think it's a good matchup for Buckley. He can defend the takedowns here. I could definitely see Colby winning. But if he shows up looking like he did against Leon, it might be even worse than he looked against Leon. Like
for sure.
On short notice, him getting older, that like Colby's weapon has always been his cardio. That's not going to be an easy thing to make a weapon on short notice. So I think it's definitely like if Colby makes Buckley work in the grappling for the first couple of rounds, maybe, but I definitely think a Buckley KO is the most likely outcome.
Yeah, if it gets a decision or something, it's probably kind of dicey just because it feels like Colby could have some decent top control in this situation, but I tend to agree.
Definitely. I do think that Joaquin investment is pretty tasty this week.
Agreed. It's definitely the biggest discrepancy between price and consensus odds that we've seen so far.
For sure. I think that's the card, though.
With that said, looking at the card, if you were to be wrong, what fight do you think you're wrong on and why? So what is the contrarian way? So does Tuco's Tacos?
It would be taking no. It would be
no Tuco's Tacos.
I need love for Tuco's Tacos. It would be whoever Daniel Marcos was fighting.
Yeah.
All right.
This one seems the easiest to have been wrong on because he could land something early.
Just knockout power is essentially what we're looking at here.
Let me see. Of the ones we went through, I don't know, dude. I guess maybe like Dustin Jacoby. I'm pretty confident in these ones, though. I feel like maybe.
I mean, like Cub could win.
Are there any fights, I guess, in like the early card that we didn't go over?
Probably, yeah. Let me see. I think Sean Woodson, Fernando Padilla is an interesting one because it's a 6'1" fighter versus a 6'2" fighter, and at this weight class, it's like two stick figures fighting each other. So I think that's going to be a pretty good fight. Felipe Lima versus Miles Johns will be a tough matchup. Two women's fights. Ramon Tavares versus Davey Grant. That one could go either way.
Davey Grant's a slight underdog there, so you're probably going to see more on the Tavares side. But Grant could easily win that fight.
Yeah, I'm on the Grant side in that fight. So
yeah, so maybe there's your lean, Wells.
I like it. All right, and if Colby were to somehow win this, how does he pull it off?
Gross decision with like 15 plus minutes of top control and just kind of that type of situation that you've seen from him before.
Yeah,
makes sense. All right. Well, I feel like that's all the answers that you guys need to know for now. Hopefully this was helpful. Invest accordingly. And yeah, until next time, we'll see y'all later. Jackson and Grant will keep on cooking with the UFC, and I'll continue to ask all the questions that I can. Until next time, peace, y'all. Have a great day.
Have a great day.